cake. Cake. Yo, what's going? Yo, Mike, what are you reading there, sir?
I'm reading a new book. Yes.
Oh, yo, that's hot. Hold on, let me give you the screen. What's that say? Fitzpatrick and von Kaufman.
Yeah, this new book that just came out. It's about the guys who used to do all the great, as you can see, advertising art back in the day. So when you saw an ad in the Slick magazines for the new Ford or GM or whatever, they were done by hand. They were not just photos. And so there was actually a team of these two guys. One guy did the people and one guy did the cars.
Yeah, that sounds like you and me.
Right. So,
Mike, you want to get these wheels, bro?
As a teenager, I had a job. My first art job was actually working for a small ad agency in Ann Arbor, and the guy used to work for Chrysler, and his brother was one of the guys that used to do these ads. And he had a couple of originals by him, and they were all done in gouache. Wow. And they just looked perfect. Like you couldn't, like no human being ever did them. He had a couple by his brother, and so yeah, they just did this nice new book. Was it the name of the publisher? Adviction Media. Rob Keel is the guy. And it just came out. So I'm sure if you look it up online, you'll be able to find.
That sounds fantastic.
A copy.
Thanks, Mike. And you know what I love about the podcast, what I love about our friendship is that there's always something new to learn. That's one of the cool things about this lifestyle we've chosen.
And as you can see behind me, I love books. I love art books. That is probably the thing that I've spent the most money on in my career, is buying art books. No, it's not. It's the same studio. I'm just at a different angle.
Yeah, we're switching it up. So, guys, welcome to Pencil, your favorite pandemic podcast. Back again, clocking in for duty on our Wednesday, 8 p.m. rotation. I hope everybody's well. If you've never watched this before, well, hello. You may be joining us live from Facebook or the tubes of your. You like what I did there? The YouTubes. My name is Jamar Nicholas, Philadelphia's favorite son, and also Johnny Carson, Mike Manley. You're not even going to respond.
And I'll just become I'm the glowing orb of Philadelphia.
You're like the sun.
I'm like the watcher.
Which goes into tune with your NASA hoodie, which I think is also very exciting.
Neil Armstrong. The best thing I ever got from one of those things on.
Oh, that's like a Wish or like one of those or AliExpress joint.
Yeah, on Facebook.
Oh, I love it. Let me introduce my co-host. I am joined by the proverbial hip, by my best bud and Master Chief of Comics, Michael Manley. Say hi, Mike.
Hello, everyone from Mission Control.
Guys, what happens here is that Mike and I, and sometimes our third host, Brett Blevins, shines his light down upon us. And we come to you live every Wednesday to talk about the craft of cartooning, or illustration, or animation, or feature film directing, or all those things in between. We bring over, what'd you say, Mike? You've been in the game, what, 40 years almost?
Almost 40. Well, yeah, 40 as a professional, almost 40 as a professional cartoonist.
Between Mike, myself, and Brett, there's almost 100 years of cartooning expertise.
And we're still using erasers.
That's right. and we get to be experts and talk to other experts in the field about what it's like to be on the other side of the exhibition table or on the other side of the art board. Uh, Tonight, as usual, you see the John above my head. Our podcast is brought to you by the good folks at Graphicsly who make Clip Studio Paint. Yes, that Clip Studio Paint. As well as our good buddy John Morrow, who is a publisher at Tomorrow's Publishing, who publishes Mike's fine magazine, Draw! Exclamation point magazine. Oh, dude, we're getting a C and D from Jerry Kraft, Mike Manley. Jerry says craft and cartooning is copywritten. Uh-oh.
I don't know. I don't know. You don't got the trademark.
Its last name is Kraft. So hey everybody, hey Mama Manley, how's everybody tonight? Listen, we have a great show for you tonight, and what I'm really excited about also, on top of our fantastic guest, is that Mike and I were running the numbers, and I have almost booked the entire rest of the year with guests. Isn't that crazy? I think it's crazy.
It's just the same guest every week. Red Skelton.
That's hilarious. But tonight we have a really special guest. I've known Ashley for, I don't know, a number of years, and what's been really fantastic to me is to watch Ashley's career blossom and skyrocket. And I always try to keep touch with people, and sometimes it gets a little wiggly. People start to float away or whatever, but we can always we all orbit around cartooning or maybe some certain comic book conventions. And I reached out to Ashley. I was like, hey, would love to have you on the show. And she said, yeah. How cool is that? So we could start at the beginning and work up to the present time. But I'm going to bring Ashley in. Ashley A. Woods is our guest tonight, who's a fantastic comic artist who started in the game self-publishing and is now doing big work at some of the major publishers, and also some stuff I probably don't know. So let's bring her in. Hold on, I gotta get the cake together. Everybody, welcome to the show, Ashley Woods. Woohoo! Cake.
Rendered live.
I love it. Hey, Ashley, how are you?
Hi.
Oh, thank you.
I got nervous. I'm like, yo, I hope this sounds good. Yeah, welcome. I wanted to bring you in and get started because I know you don't have all night like some of us around here.
Well, she has all night, but she's got to be doing something else all night.
So, yeah, we talked a little bit before we went live about just the three-headed monster called the Deadline, which is always rearing its ugly head. So, Ashley, I don't want to get you in trouble, but can you tell us what you're working on? What's on your table right now?
So right now, I was actually working on some promo for my comic, MILLENIA WAR. So I've been working on the 8th book in the series. I had to take a hiatus from it to work on client work. So a longer hiatus than intended, but we're finally at a point now where I can return to it. So I'm working on that. And as far as client work goes, I'm actually exploring horror genre. So that's pretty exciting. A lot of people know my work for socially conscious themes as well as fantasy.
Yeah.
So it's nice to switch it up a bit and take a breather from some of the heavier stuff.
Are you a horror fan, or is horror can be pretty heavy. Depending upon the type of.
It's a different kind of heavy, but hell yeah, I am. I'm a huge fan. Yeah.
Oh, really? So you were like, you loved Halloween then, right? You like seeing all the monster movies. They'd start running them every year over and over again.
Oh yeah. Oh,
so you have any favorites or a favorite genre of horror?
Wes Craven. Some of his stuff can be campy, but it's just a lot of fun. It doesn't. His movies doesn't take themselves too seriously. I also like some. I don't think you can consider James Cameron as a horror director, But what's that movie when they filmed it underwater? The Deep, I
The
think.
Abyss.
The
The
Abyss.
Abyss.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would classify that as horror. Um,
That's
whatever.
fantastic. I thought you were going to bring up. Now I'm going to get roasted in the comments because I don't remember all this stuff. The Carpenter did The Thing, right?
Yes.
Yes,
But
John Carter,
John
yeah,
Carpenter did The Thing, Escape from New York.
yeah.
Snake Plissken.
Right.
That's my dude.
Escape from
So,
LA.
but would you consider something horror because you got scared by it, or is it because like what makes this is like a really weird question, but like I always think of horror as like jump scare, dude with the mask type of stuff, but other things can also be horror as well.
Well, horror is pretty broad though, if you think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, so you have your thrillers, your psychological thrillers. Then you have your,
Is that's what it says on the box? Right?
Rated
Right.
rated
Rated
E.
Yeah, so you have your slashers, and then you have your really disturbing movies.
Right.
Then also you have your supernatural stuff
Now,
like
do you
that.
like zombies? Do you like zombies? Are you a
Yeah.
Okay. Now
Mike doesn't like zombies.
I was never a zombie person, but I know so many
I feel
female.
baited.
I know so many female artists I know love zombies. I think more than the men.
Oh,
I don't know why that is.
that's interesting.
I think I mean I don't know. You can shut me up, but I don't know. I think one of my things that I love about zombies has nothing to do with the horror of it. I think it's the collapse of civilization that I like about it, and it's kind of like, what would you do if there's no rules?
Exactly, and
Right.
also it's interesting, people putting together, seeing how they make makeshift weapons, and the creativity, behind surviving.
Wait a
I
minute.
know that I'm super smart, but also with me
I'm putting
living in the
together some
city,
weapons right now. I got some rapidograph ink and a pen. I put that in somebody's eye.
there you go.
No. So
But
Ashley, bringing it back to illustration, did you ever get into horror comics or the old EC black and white comic books or any of that? Do you have
so
a history with that?
my only the only thing that I've read horror related was in manga, and that's the Tomy books.
Mhm.
Also, I forget the name. Junji Ito, I think, is
Okay.
the artist and writer. But
Mhm.
like all of his stories revolve around spirals, and so his stuff is pretty twisted and dark. And later on, the characters take on grotesque figures. They after people start to realize who they are. Like, oh, you're the monster. Stuff like
Right.
that.
Right.
But the comics and manga I typically read were action and fantasy. So I always talk about Blade of the Immortal, but there's also a Korean manhwa. It's called Shaman Warrior.
Yeah.
It was created in the same vein as Blade, and I started collecting the first 6 volumes. I think there's 9 total, 8 or 9, but I collected the first 6 like way back 15 years ago in 06 when it first dropped. What else did I read? I read a lot of stuff. There's this French comic, and it's about a doll. I don't know if you guys heard about it. It's like a doll.
Is it kind of like old school stuff, or is it pretty modern?
It's early 2000s. But yeah, that's the kind of things I grew up reading.
So like a French version of Chucky?
No, no. This comic dealt with like sex themes and prostitution and stuff like that, entertainment. But yeah, so comics mostly action, adventure, fantasy. But then like movies, I would delve more into like slashers and thrillers.
Oh, okay. So I would love to. I have some images I want to show, but we're not there yet. It's not image time yet. This is just kind of like what we call in the show your origin story. So if you wouldn't mind, kind of telling us a little bit of how you got into the business and as a young person, were you really kind of dead set on being a cartoonist, or like how did that all come about?
So um, I've always had an affinity for drawing, so that pretty much came natural to me. But it wasn't until around 15, this is like back in 2000,
Hmm.
where I felt that I had to decide, like, I love gaming and also I love comics. So I was thinking to myself, like, which seems more achievable, or
Mm.
which feels more natural for me to delve towards.
Hmm.
And so I knew that I loved telling my own stories,
Yeah.
and I wasn't too keen on how I could have made that happen, 20 years ago in gaming.
Yeah.
Um, you know, Industries all over have changed a lot, so I'm not sure if that perspective will apply today. But
Hmm.
way back in 2000, when I was a teen, um, different lanes were a lot more clear cut.
Hmm.
So it was either gaming or comics. And so since I wanted to be a storyteller as well, I, gravitated towards comics. And my art style was influenced or inspired by this game called Marvel vs. Capcom on Dreamcast and
Hmm.
PlayStation. And
Mm.
so the reason why that art style gravitated towards me, growing up in the 90s and watching anime back then, a lot of their characters had really distorted figures.
Yeah.
So they either had like super long, lanky bodies, or these big water heads with huge eyes.
Yeah.
So that style, while it may have worked for the story, that didn't really appeal to my personal taste and what I wanted to draw.
Uh-huh.
So the great thing about Marvel vs. Capcom is the artist had a nice balance of the East and Western styles, and
Yeah.
so that's what I tried to achieve, in my style.
Hmm.
I know, well, I've been told that my style is very unique and doesn't really resemble, you know, I guess my influences, because my main influences, is manga and anime, Japanese. But
Hmm.
I still try to, maintain my own identity,
Yeah.
despite that.
So, and one thing leaning into video games, because a lot of people on the podcast know that I'm a gamer, and that's
Yeah.
probably another thing that you and I share in common. Is I remember that there was, for a long time, a lot of people were influenced by the Marvel Street Fighter style of illustration, and just what you said, I didn't think about it so much, but if like these characters are so big, you don't have to be a gamer to know who Chun Li is. You
Right.
know what I mean? But like like the proportions of all these characters are so whack, but it works at the
Mhm.
same time, and that's like there's almost like a, I don't know, like a math problem that makes that stuff work, that is not easily emulated.
Mhm.
Did you draw a lot of fan art too when you were kind of like figuring out your deal?
Yeah. So even though I didn't own a lot of comics, I had a family member who had like a trunk, like trunks and trunks of comics, so I would read theirs. Um, I did collect a lot of Wizard magazines,
Mm-hmm.
during, I would say, the golden age of entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember being 16 in driver's ed, and I had like this big old, 11 by 14 sheet of paper, and I'm drawing Ghost Rider based on this image I seen in Wizards. I got the magazine,
Mm-hmm.
open on the corner of my desk, like barely balancing it, because our
Yeah.
desks are so tiny, and
Yeah.
this big dumbass piece of paper. And then I had the gall to have watercolor on top of that, just a full spread. So, just growing up, my teachers, did occasionally get frustrated with me, because
Mm.
I've always, just drawn fan art during class. I went through a Betty Boop stage. I went through a Archie stage.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so yeah, lots of fan art. I didn't really start creating my own characters until the Marvel vs. Capcom stage. When I
Mm-hmm.
was 15.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, when I was real small and I would make, I would staple copy paper together and make homemade comics. Those
Yeah.
stories were based on my Barbie dolls and toys and,
Wow.
campy stuff.
Uh,
Yeah.
did you have a community of other people that were drawing along with you, or were you the art kid in your school, or how did you surround yourself with other creatives, or did that happen at all?
I was mostly the art kid, but there were a few times where I did have a community. So my earliest memory of that is fifth grade. I used to sit in the back of my class with this classmate named Sonny,
Hmm.
and he used to get in trouble a lot, but it was kind of weird because he had the best prayers. I went to a Baptist, school,
Hmm.
evangelical school, but he would have like the best prayers, but then he would get in trouble. It was a good dynamic, but he can also
Had a
draw.
lot of practice.
Yeah.
I did, but he was really great at drawing too. And we used to play Ninja Gaiden on the Game Boy together. So during those years, we was playing that, and then Mortal Kombat 3 came out, so we would draw fan art for that game.
Hmm.
And so then after that, I was the lone art kid again until I want to say, yeah, freshman year of high school. So there would be kids here and there in high school,
Hmm.
and then I didn't really meet my group until Gallery 37. There was like a special program put together by the former mayor of Chicago, Mayor Daley. His
Hmm.
wife, she created Gallery 37, and so they would take students in high school only in their junior and senior years, and if you were accepted, you got to leave your school and take the train downtown, and
Oh,
those credits will account for your fifth through eighth periods.
hmm.
So junior year, I studied 3D animation because I wanted to try something different. I was always drawing, so I met
Right.
more artist friends there. And then senior year, we weren't allowed to retake the same course, so I had to choose AP painting. I honestly didn't enjoy it that much,
Hmm.
and my teacher hated that I always drew anime and manga. It's kind of funny that that's the most popular thing now.
Right. Right.
but
Right.
but
Yeah.
so she used to like make me stay later and read, draw stuff. But she was still cool, real cool teacher. Um,
Could I jump in real quick? So with that, and this is something that comes up a lot, and Mike and I both teach, is that to the uninitiated, a lot of times I would get questions like, "Hey, what's up with these kids in the anime?" And when they say that, it's almost like a slur, right? Because they don't,
No
they
anime.
like they just don't understand it, and the kids are so into it, and I think they don't know how to connect to it. But
Oh,
did you?
yeah.
Yeah,
Because they when I was in high school, they didn't like comics. Period.
right.
So they would like take Mad if they would take my Mad magazine or anything I was reading. They didn't like comics. Period. Now it's like no anime because that's what like the current crop of kids like just in general.
Yeah.
Um, and in 15 years, whatever that crop of kids likes, they won't like that either. They'll be like, no,
mhm,
no Korean, no
Mm.
webtoons,
mhm,
Right.
whatever the big thing is, right?
Right.
mhm.
So there's some questions in the chat that I'll just allude to. So was the teacher trying to kind of like break you out of drawing cartoons, or were they trying to give you, I don't know, I don't know, more foundational drawing that you didn't want to do? Like, what was the conflict there?
Um, I think she just didn't take a liking to the style, so
Yeah.
she wasn't trying to break my
Mm.
personal style, but if
Yeah.
it pertained to her work, her homework or classwork, you know, she
Mm.
had a very specific vision, as to what she wanted. So more traditional, uh, which I didn't have a problem with because it did help flesh me out.
Right.
Hmm.
Right. I think, I remember being in school or knowing one kid who just kind of did what he wanted to do. And it's a very, especially in high school, it's a very conflicting time. Everything's very defiant if it's either this way or that way. And I think you need a really special teacher who can understand that you're frustrated
Mm-hmm.
when you're doing your thing and you're not bothering anybody, and then the teacher's like, but don't do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Or
right,
lead you from your interest and say that's cool that you like that,
right,
but
right,
maybe you've never thought about this other way or this other thing, and then try to connect what you're liking to, because it's art, to another tradition of art,
right.
right?
Mhm.
But usually that requires patience. That's what I try to do, because I remember being the person who the same thing. The teacher's like, "Oh, you
Mhm.
like comic books?
Mhm.
Right.
No, no, no,
I
no."
think, back in 2004, back in the early 2000s, uh, a lot of everyday people were more confused about anime and manga because they would think it's all sexual, which a lot of it is, sexual. You have your hentai and all of that,
Mhm.
but people who didn't watch it thought that that was all there is, to it, and
Right.
obviously, it isn't. And so, um, when I was introduced to anime and manga in like my mid-teens, um, I was inspired to like want to create my own stories in the same vein. So I was
Right.
watching Ghost in the Shell, and there's this other movie. It's called Junon. It's like, it's about a soldier who's
Mhm.
pumped up with this serum, and but yeah, so that
Mhm.
the original Berserk
Yeah.
from the mid 90s. So I wanted to create work within that vein, and so I had like this big beat up sketchbook that I carried with me everywhere, and so my teacher would see my sketchbook and it just confused her. She was like, "What the hell is this?"
Right.
So all these
Why is
robots
there's
and
all
stuff.
this mean people? Why is there all this violence? Is there something wrong? Should I be concerned?
No, I mean,
No.
she wasn't mean. I just think she was confused. She was an older lady too. She
Yeah.
wasn't young. So,
Yeah.
you
Draw
know,
something nice.
yeah, exactly. Draw something nice. So, yeah, she just didn't get it. So, yeah, there's that.
Did you, and we'll kind of get out of school in a second, but did you feel kind of like a teenage angst and a responsibility to defend anime or defend manga or defend your work to all of these old people who didn't get it? Or did you just kind of navigate around it? And the reason I ask that, Ashley, is because I think we all know people who you might have come up with who just got sidetracked somewhere, or they got frustrated somewhere, or the last person told them to stop doing that and they listened.
Mhm.
So, like, I wonder, not how did you not get sidetracked?
So as a kid, I was really naive, as all kids are,
Mm,
and my mindset growing up was that I had a very specific vision as to where I wanted to be, and I knew that once I achieved whatever goal I set out, professionally,
mhm.
I would naturally meet the kind of environment, So I just kept focused on the future.
Okay. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish there were more of you around
But
back
when
in the
I hit
day.
So,
college, I met my crew in college, so like
Mm.
all those years, were cool.
so were you thinking about going to college, or were you thinking like, oh, I need to choose a college to help me get to the place that I want to be? And did you investigate that? Did you do any homework on that to kind of figure out, well, this is good school or this is not a good school? Or
Yeah.
So I was pretty confused about how to approach the whole college thing. So I pretty much followed the footsteps of my friend from high school. His name is Philip. And so I watched what schools he applied to. And, I applied to the International Academy of Design and Technology. I don't think it's around anymore,
Mm.
but I applied as well, checked out the open house. I went to a few other schools for their open houses, but that school resonated with me. And so we both went there together. And that's pretty much how I went about my whole college thing. I think I lucked out because I didn't put a lot of effort into researching.
Mm,
Um, I just happened to have some really cool classmates in my vicinity. I just like learned from them.
yeah. Uh,
Um,
and I think that's a great question. I hope we're not slowing down your interview because all of these things are really that they're really interesting touch points with young people and kind of seeing if they're going to get to the next level or not. I know that Mike especially talks a lot about college at the high school level, like what arts, are you going to an atelier? Are you going to go to this art school? Are you going to go to this art school?
Yeah.
And I think to a lot of I'll just say normal people, I don't know a better way to say that, either there's just no knowledge about all of these places, or you go with, I don't know, like I don't know how you figure that out. Like in my case, really quick, I'm from Philly. I wanted to go to SVA. I was such a 6 block radius kid. I didn't know I could go to New York. And that might be people might be laughing, watching this, like, what? Why can't you just get on a bus? But that's the world I came from. You know
Well,
what I
yeah.
you
Yeah.
know what I mean? So, I think that's such an interesting
Well,
problem.
touching on that, one of the things I do, it feels actually one of the most important things I do as a teacher and as a person who didn't actually go to art school really until I was 45, right? And long after I'd already had a career and everything.
Hmm.
You meet somebody who's like a 15-year-old version of us. They have no idea what school to go to. They have an idea that this is something that they'd want to do.
Right.
But unlike if you're going to go to music school or be a doctor, if you're going to be a doctor, there's all the stuff you do to prepare to go to medical school. You got to have good grades. You go see the school. You got to get recommendations. I mean, there's a whole process of going to medical school, which is exactly what people should do to go to art school. But they don't, because people don't commonly have that experience in their family of being an artist. If I do the career day, the parents would be like, can my son or daughter, you know,
Are
make it
they
in this business? It's like, what,
right?
they're being thrown to the wolves.
Are they good enough?
Yeah,
Is there money? Can
yeah,
they make money?
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I always tell them, you know, I'm the example of a person who did not have. I couldn't go to the art school I wanted to because I wanted to go to art center. Parents didn't have the money to send me to art center. Nobody told me about getting loans, all that stuff that you get to do now. And there's a whole industry of actually getting people to go to school now. Um, so, but it's important, and especially I would say in African American communities, because a good portion of the students I teach in that after school program are African American students. And in that community, there's even less knowledge about the arts.
Yeah.
It's and so I'll typically get a 15-year-old, a 16-year-old, somebody's a junior. They don't even really, they know they would like to do anime. And then that's sort of like where it ends. Their knowledge, they don't Google things, they don't Instagram people, they don't, they really have a real lack
Right.
of like, how do I get from here to there? So you were fortunate in that you had your friends who at least said, hey, follow me. This is where I'm going to go over here.
Right. Hmm.
I mean, I've had to do that a lot in life. To respond to what you were saying, Jamar, about the whole 6 block radius thing.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm not sure what your background is, but my background pretty much forced me to take on a more explorative view or
Hmm.
approach to life.
Yeah.
Um, because I learned, not speaking for myself, no, I learned that no one's going to save you early on. That sounds very dramatic, but I had to grow up, pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So that's why I've always had that fire. That's where that fire came from. It's like I
Mhm.
gotta start now. Now. So
Right.
um, I think art school is important. I'm not sure if I were 18 today, if I would have jumped into school right away after high school, based on the fact that what the three of us have are trades. Art is a trade.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can get into Savannah or like a really notable art school, I would say go for that. But I'm just gonna abandon that thought. I'm not sure if I would do it, because
Yeah.
the money comes right away. It comes quick if people like what you're putting out.
Mm-hmm.
It's a trade. If people like your work, you could just jump straight into your career. Because since I've been working these past 5 years with different studios and companies, not once has anyone ever asked to see my degree. You know.
Yeah.
You're like, wait a minute, let me see your papers. Show me your yeah. Yeah.
Like the biggest role that my experiences in college played in my life is the relationships and the connections I built right while there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still close to my teachers and some of my classmates. So yeah.
Yeah. That's you kind of hit it right on the head there, right?
What do you
And
mean?
well, no, I'm just thinking more about the success part of all of this, and just I think it's such a wide chasm between being a young enthusiast that is looking to jump, right? You could see the other side of the cliff and like, yo, I really want to get over it, I just don't know how, versus kids who just fall right down into the thing, right?
Yeah.
And it's like you have to figure out how to create a bridge, and a lot of
But
times you don't have a lot of support with that.
and then I looked up this Reddit video recently, and the topic was the difference between kids. This was geared towards teachers. They asked
Mm-hmm.
the teachers, "What's the difference between kids in 1997, 2007, and 2017?" And
uh,
so it's interesting. Kids in 2017 or modern day kids,
yeah.
um, they have this distinct fear of perfectionism, or they're focused on perfectionism because of social media. Like, society is way more unforgivable. Think about how the three of us grew up. Society was way more different, where we had the capability to bounce back a lot quicker.
Mm.
And I think that was more so the norm between young folks across the board. There were some that fell through the cracks, but nowadays everything is so polarized and extreme. We either have, super strong willed go getters in today's young people, or we have people who are too afraid to act,
Right.
so it's very
Yeah.
polarized.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's true because I mean I've been teaching about 20 years now.
Mhm.
And the classes that I taught 20 years ago, the students were very different than the students are today.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the other thing is that out of all these art schools, the majority of art schools in America, 98% of the students that attend do not go on within 5 years to do art. So it's not actually a good investment for most people who go to art school, right? So you can actually now learn a lot online. You can take classes. You can, there's so much. Like, if you want to learn how to draw the figure, just go on YouTube tonight, and there's like a million videos of how to draw the figure by people that are really good.
Yeah.
That are really good. That was not available to me in
Right.
1977, right? Because there was no internet, right? I
Right.
mean, there
Right.
Yeah.
was, but people were using it for that. So I think that for a lot of kids will go and they will spend that first year or two and kind of goof off, and then they spent 80 grand,
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
and then they go like, maybe this is not for me. So yeah, I think with that perfectionism, it's almost I advise people to take a gap year or two, kind of go out and try to get your feet wet, try to go into the world, experience the world, because then maybe you'll be a little bit more focused when you go into school.
Right. And then you were just mentioning just references. I can relate to that. I was in high school in the early 2000s, and even 20 years ago, it was really difficult to find references outside of, paying an arm and a leg for an art book. So there was this website. It's still around today. It's called Fighters Generation. Jamar, since you're into games, you may like it,
Yeah.
but it has different categories of fighting games. SNK games, Capcom, what have you, Tekken, and so I would go to their website and look at all the different character designs and their profiles and their stats, and that's where I started learning about designing the character and their backstory and their stats, and I would I had a big fat binder of printouts. I would just print out as much as I could of all these characters during a division before I had to rush off the third period. And my classmates would be frustrated, like, get off the printer, because there's only like 4 computers.
That's
And I'm like,
fantastic.
I'm printing like Ryu and Sakura.
That's a really funny corollary, because a lot of the people we talk to they kind of came in with the love of the comic strips, or they came in with the love of straight comic books, or like Marvel, a lot of Marvel people. But that whole gaming thing, and I'm like the ambassador for gaming culture over here. It's just like it's still really a little misunderstood at how they all cross over, and just like the arts the art of games is such a underappreciated thing. And I'm really glad that you brought that up, because I think a lot of people wouldn't know you would have kind of like got into illustrating for looking at 2D character sprites.
Yeah, I think Hideo Kojima, he marries movies and gaming really well.
Mhm.
So Mike, you mentioned Escape from New York. Do you know the game Metal Gear Solid?
Yes.
And so Snake, Solid Snake, he's based off of Snake Plissken.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I think Hideo, he marries those two genres or industries, movies and games, really well. And actually, his parents would have him watch movies and then write a report, like a book report, but it's for a movie. And that's how he built his talent, throughout childhood. But yeah, it's all the same, gaming, comics, animation. It's just a tool for
Right,
storytelling.
right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I love it. So, Ashley, I want to keep moving along. So, tell us a little bit. So, you're going through college, and are you? Here's a good question about your college time. What were you prepping for? What were you working towards? Was it, you did talk about you're beginning in self publishing, but were you doing any freelance, or working with clients while you were in school? Were you just focused on being a student at that time? What were you thinking about?
I was mostly focused on my own project, Millennia War,
Hmm.
and being a student and my part-time job. I had a couple of part-time jobs during those years, so
Hmm.
those are my main priorities. I didn't start delving into client work until after graduation in 2007 or 8, and those were local clients. And then my first um, I guess corporate client would be Toyota. So I did some storyboards for a commercial of theirs, and that was summer of 2014 or 2015, 2014. And after that, I crossed over into comics professionally with NIOBE.
Oh wow!
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a little bit. How did that first kind of foray into client work happen? Was that something you were applying for? Did that kind of just fall into your lap? How did you like? Because storyboards, as we talk about boarding all the time on the show, about how it's such a specific skill set that is not really comic books, but it's close. But it is, but it isn't. How did that come about, and have you done any since?
Yeah. Did you have an
Um,
agent or something?
so I didn't get an agent until 2 years ago. Um, so prior to that, um, I was just on my own, and so
Yeah.
that Toyota contract, I forget the girl's name, but she emailed me. I think she seen my profile on LinkedIn, And so that's where a lot of my jobs came through, including Lovecraft Country with HBO. I didn't realize that, LinkedIn is really huge for TV and the art industry. And so, yeah, through email.
Wow, that's I'm bugging a little bit just because I'm thinking about kind of the avenues we talk a lot about on the show about when I came into the industry, the internet was in the middle of the forums. Like it was the
Right.
culture of forums. Everybody had a forum or a message board. But by the time LinkedIn came around, I have a LinkedIn. I've never really done anything with it.
I need
But
to update mine.
but what you're speaking on makes so much sense. And I know I know a lot of people who swear by LinkedIn. Mike, have you ever done any business through LinkedIn?
I have a LinkedIn. I've had a LinkedIn for a long time, and only last year did I, or was it? No, it was earlier this year. I sort of re-engaged with it because
Hmm.
there was I had a couple storyboard offers, um, um, and I think there for a long time artists did not use LinkedIn. It was more
Yeah.
like other kind of businesses, but now I notice that people use Twitter now for stuff, and they also use LinkedIn. So, are you putting up portfolio pieces, or are you just like linking to your Instagram? What are you doing with your
Oh
LinkedIn?
my god. Oh my god. I haven't touched LinkedIn in about 5, 6 years. That I'm so shameful to say that because I know it's huge now. And I know it's evolved a lot. So I'm not too keen on what its current setup is. It seems to be
Hmm.
a lot more expansive because the LinkedIn that I remember 6, 7 years ago was kind of bare bones. And like you
Hmm.
Yeah,
said, like you said, it was more so for non-creative jobs, corporate or local, everyday spots. It was more towards that and not so creative. So that was
Hmm.
the reason why I didn't update mine in the past few years. I just wasn't aware.
and now you don't need to.
That's right.
Now you have arrived.
No, I wouldn't say. I'm still gonna update it.
Well, actually, I have some questions about your kind of early start in comics. So, Millennia War came first, or NIOBE came first?
Millennial War. So I
Right.
worked on that or I began working on it in 2004,
Hmm.
and I finally self-published it March of 2006.
Wow, I don't even remember those dates so quickly.
Because it was just a pivotal time. I was having a
Sure.
lot of fun. So.
Yeah, and I think that's how we met. It was probably at an early Ekbach show.
Mhm.
Um, can you talk a little bit about some of your experiences with early self-publishing? Like, what was the kind of pivotal moment that made you go, okay, this is the year I'm going to self-publish, or this is the story I'm going to tell, or I have enough pages now. Can you talk about the like that very first book and getting that out? Because I think that's an interesting story to tell.
So um, I had no idea what I was doing the whole time. I was just learning as I went. Um,
Yeah.
my mindset was that I have this idea and I want to get it out any way possible. I wasn't really focused on making a profit or any of that. So I studied copyright and trademarking as I did it. Um, in a perfect world, if I can go back and do it all over, I would have went into the book with a lot more structure,
Hmm.
because the way I went in was just like all passion. So I just drew my characters and wrote the story as I was drawing the characters.
Hmm.
Because sometimes when you're sketching, the story just kind of comes to you. You may
Hmm.
draw a certain detail in their outfit, and it's like, oh, I just got this whole backstory from this pendant that they're wearing. You know,
Right. Right.
so yeah, I was kind of doing everything at the same time.
Hmm.
So since I started working in the industry, I learned more structure, how to apply more structure to my work,
Yeah.
and yeah, so I have a love-hate relationship thing with that, deadlines, but yeah.
Well, yeah, and we're looking at NIOBE pages right now, but with the Millennial War stuff, I remember being very, and I think I have like your first couple of issues in a long box somewhere in my basement. But I remember being really excited about how you were using digital color back then. And that was still when you saw a lot of people self-publishing, it was straight black and white,
Mhm.
right? And I think it's weird now to tell the story about how not everybody did color books back
Mhm.
then and how it was kind of a specialized skill. How did you kind of figure out about color printing, or even like what your uh your color theory was, and how did you decide you were going to do that in your first self-published work?
So, um, I would gather after watching a certain show. So
Mm,
Ergo Proxy came out 2006,
mm-hmm,
and I remember really being into that show, and so I would save screen caps and make a little folder in my hard drive,
mm-hmm,
and I would dip into that folder and grab these references, and then I would use the color picker tool. So at first, for a long time, I would just color pick the same color schemes and other
mm-hmm,
projects that I've seen,
mm-hmm.
and but it didn't translate too well for me because the thing with referencing still images, be it a photograph or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
um, your work can come out muddy.
Yeah.
So I had to learn through trial and error, hues and values and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
That was something I really struggled with, for a while, just like a flat, muddy, news.
Yeah.
So you never had a color theory class or anything in school? You not had anybody teach you specifically about color?
Yeah, I had a few classes, like they were basic courses because in college I went to study film, so I mostly learned about storyboarding and how to frame a shot and all of that, green screen effects, everything in that vein. And so with my colors, I would just learn that with artist friends. It wasn't a formal education
Right.
in that
Right.
degree.
Right.
um, so, thinking back to my Gallery 37 days in high school, I had a few lessons on color theory there, and then, basic courses in college, but mostly just self taught or just watching tutorials these like recent
Mm,
years.
mm-hmm.
And then
Wow.
the other thing, you go when you're coloring something and you're taking something that's a JPEG,
Hmm.
then you have to convert it to CMYK to print it, and that
Right.
can change your colors completely.
Right. And so I had a few mistakes that I had to, learn or grow from with self-publishing. So certain printers, would take different formats, like you say, CMYK or RGB.
Mm.
And I'm trying to remember, how did I discover self publishing? I You know what?
Mm.
I it During college there was another friend of mine who was self-publishing their comic. It was called The Raven. It was his take on Batman. But
Okay.
there was a comic book store around the corner from my college. It was on Madison and Monroe. It was
Mm.
called Graham Cracker
Graham
Comic.
cracker. Yeah, I've been a graham cracker. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I have a kitten. Actually, I have two kittens here, so
they're,
I can't
Ah,
really
they're crawling all over you. That's hilarious. Yeah, graham cracker is a great store. Oh, look at the kids.
oh,
but
We got to pause this interview. We got to see the kids.
oh, they've been taken away now, but but yeah. So around the corner was Graham Cracker Comics, and so I would frequent there a lot. And I got in real good with the owner, Patrick, before he moved on to his own store, which is called Challengers now,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a little bit further north in Chicago. But anyway, so while hanging out at the store almost every day, I would meet other independent artists, and that's how I learned about self publishing from watching them self publish their own comics.
Yeah.
And so I used to be a part of a small comic book group. It didn't have a name. It was just, a bunch of artists, and we decided to, share a table together for Wizard World Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
So this is 2005. So
this was before it turned into C2E2, right?
No, that's a totally different comic convention. C2E2.
I thought. Okay, all right. Yeah. I'm mistaken. Go ahead. Don't let me throw you off.
That's all good. And so, I think I heard something recently about like a merger with Wizard World.
Yeah,
they got bought out.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, they got bought out. But so you through this group, you found out like, oh, this is where you go to get it printing.
Right.
This is how I go about distributing it. This is where I need to, this is the room I need in my house for all the books when they ship it to me. Right. And all those bumps that you go through that are important to learn when you self-publish.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, were you thinking, okay, I'm self-publishing, but I would really like to work for, Dark Horse or Marvel or DC? Were you still looking for other things at the same time?
Yeah, definitely. The whole time, I was putting myself out there because I can be gregarious. I have no problem approaching people. So I did that for a while. All of my independent years, which lasted between 2004 to 2015. And I made a lot of connections, but I'm not really sure if I can call them connections because I didn't benefit from knowing these people. I would go to all of the drinking draws, and people knew who I was, and I had on the surface a good standing with a lot of these artists and writers, but I think it took society to evolve into what it is today, starting back in 2016 when everything became more political. I think that's how I got my break. If things didn't turn political, I don't like political things, to be frank. And I know that may not be a popular thought, but it's just not my thing. I like my entertainment to be more escapism focused.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like for it to take itself too seriously. But in any case, granted, if certain things didn't change, I don't think I would have gotten my foot in the door. And that's the reality of it. I served a purpose. I checked off certain check boxes, and they benefited, from it as well.
Well, that's true because but the thing is that you have to still deliver the goods. They can say, I want a certain ethnicity and a certain sex or whatever, but if you can't make the product, it doesn't matter if you fit 2 of the 3 boxes. If the third one you can't check, you know what I mean? So still the work has to stand on its own, no matter what, right? Because a person reading, you think about it, when you read a book, you don't immediately go, oh, that's a black person, that's a gay person, that's a white person, that's a Chinese person. When you first look at an image, you just go, I like it. Then you might discover all these other things as you go along, right? Like, I'm sure a little black kid reading Black Panther didn't know that he was created by 2 middle-aged New York Jews. I mean, you know what I mean? You're just like, oh, that's a cool character. I like it. So, but so you feel that because maybe people were, because of politics, they were more open to looking for a wider
audiences. Their audiences can be open to a lot of things a lot sooner than companies are. Because companies want to play it safe, and so with everything about equality and identity. I mean, it's a shift in culture now, society. It's just a shift. And if certain companies don't want to be left behind, they have to keep up with the times. I think there's a good and it's a double-edged sword, It can get complicated. I think if and it's something that I had to struggle with, with my perspective on what's right and wrong. There are some universal rights and wrongs, but at the same time, I think if I think a person should focus on trying to find where they fit in this society nowadays, because there is no normal. Normal doesn't exist anymore on multiple levels. First it was, the shift in thinking back in 2016, and then we had COVID, which exasperated everything, at the top of last year. So there is no new normal due to those two things. So where does that leave us, as just everyday people, the three of us?
Right.
Everything is scattered and vague.
Mm-hmm.
I think three of us were ahead of the game with our skills. We're blessed or gifted to have a trade. Because if you don't have a trade, it's like today,
It's a wrap.
it's
Right.
a wrap. Like I was looking up, what kind of income a person would need to, just have a semi comfortable living. I think in Cali and New York, as low as you can go is 24 an hour, and that would get you like maybe a one bedroom out there. Here in Chicago or Illinois, you need at least 19 an hour, to be comfortable. But there's not too many jobs offering that unless you're going for trucking or construction, something that takes you away from your family or strains your body.
Mm-hmm.
And we're seeing more women truckers out. That's something I have
That's
to get
true.
that's something I had to get used to seeing, because it's like, whoa, you got your pedicure, you got your nails
Right.
did, but you
Yeah. Yeah.
driving this
In fact,
rig.
there's a
Huh?
trucking company run by all women, I believe. That there's,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and I think it might be in Chicago or someplace
That's pretty
like
Okay.
that.
cool.
Yeah, yeah. But the other thing I would say
Hmm.
is that within the past, so I've been teaching about 20 years now. I think this next year will be 20 years. The amount of women cartoonists,
Hmm.
women artists is off the charts now.
Hmm.
Just in the last 10 years, just way off the charts. And I think that might also be a really, really, really maybe the most important thing, because now I teach a class that's teenagers in high school. That's what I've been teaching. It's open to any student in Philadelphia. I've been teaching that, well, until COVID shut it down. Um, most of the serious students were women. Most of my assistants have been female. And there's this great push of female artists among you and your generation, of people that grew up and thought like, well, that's something that I could do, right? Because when I was a teenager and I would go to a show, we talked about this before, I would never see a female artist in line with a portfolio. It was all guys, right?
Hmm.
But now you go to Artist Alley, more than half of Artist Alley in any show is women,
Hmm.
female artists, publisher, trying to publish their own stuff. You go to Webtoons, it's completely driven by the female reader and the female artist. Most popular stuff is usually stuff that's done, if not just consumed by female readers, produced by female artists, right? Now, maybe that's a little bit different than in anime in Japan, because it's still pretty much like the old school, and the dudes run the shop, and you got your apprentices and everything. But I would just say in the past 10 years, the amount of female artists, and then the type of stories that they're interested in reading, and therefore the kind of stories that they're interested in telling, is really affecting the business in a really positive way. So I think you're sort of riding in also on that wave of women coming in, because you go into animation, it's like there's more women
The,
than men.
mhm. The thing about coming in on a wave, and I mentioned things being a double edged sword. Um, you have to like figure out how to make things work for you and your narrative,
Mm-hmm.
because the thing about coming in on a wave, a lot of times that wave is extreme. So it's like, how do I carve out my identity within this industry. First of all, there aren't a lot of Black female artists. I see a lot of them on Twitter and Instagram. Like, we're popping
Mhm.
up everywhere, but
Yeah.
only a few short years ago that wasn't the case. And I didn't have the smoothest transition because of other Black female artists. White female artists, they hold each other down. It don't matter if they got beef. They put that beef aside, and there's a lot more support within other artist groups than within between female Black female artists, or even I'm going too deep with it. But like I said, there is everything is vague, and you just have to really find a way to make something work for you, because it's very easy for these companies that you work for. They want to narrate your story or who you are and how they communicate you to their audience.
Right.
That's
Right.
super true. Now hold on, Mike. Now I want to be honest with Ashley and check, because I know you said you had to get out of here. How you feeling? You want to keep going or wrap?
Yeah, maybe like 10, 15 more minutes, if
Okay.
that's cool.
Yeah. All right. See, I said it was going to flow by, right? It's like, yo, what happened? So, but there were a couple of questions in the chat I'd love to get to. But I want to make sure that we finish having a chance for you to tell your story. So since that time in your early foray in self-publishing, you've done a lot of mainstream work. I know you just did a Wonder Woman story, and there's some Tomb Raider samples in your work. Um, can you give me a little bit? And this might be a really quick answer because it might just be money. But can you give me some of your thoughts on the differences between doing mainstream work or doing your own creator-owned work?
um,
Positives, maybe not really negatives, but how you feel about the two.
so the positives about working mainstream is that your work can reach a wider audience quicker,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's the positive. Um, I think I would prefer to tell my own stories, because there's a lot of creativity that all artists, they feel. There comes a time where we feel stifled because we're so busy expressing other people's ideas, and it's not that we're not grateful for the opportunities, we are, but we have our own stories that we want to tell, and so it can feel stifling sometimes.
That's very true. And I think also I would say this is something that I learned in my career. It's better to own it yourself, because you can create something 20 years ago and they still pay you royalties on it or whatever. But if they're paying you $1, they're making 100.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And if they took something that I created 20 years ago and they put that character in every single Marvel comic, I don't get a dime. Not one dime. I only get a dime if it's in a comic with his name on it. So it's like if you create Wolverine and they put Wolverine in every Marvel comic, well, you only get money for him being in Wolverine. So long run, you're doing the smart thing by creating your own IP, having your own stories. And I also think, especially for this generation, they think of you in a different way. They think
Mhm,
of you as a creator
mhm,
rather than a contractor.
right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I would meet up and coming artists at Artist Alley at different conventions, and some of the advice I would give them is I would tell them to focus on creating a book versus just selling prints, because that sets you yeah, that
Mm-hmm.
sets you apart when you have a book, because you're drawing. I mean, you get to show your range as an artist with a book, to put it simply. And a
Mm-hmm.
book is way more engaging, on multiple levels. So I think that's why I had gained a following quickly, because like I said, I didn't know what I was doing when I was self-publishing, back in '06, and between '06 and '09.
Mm-hmm.
I was just, trying to get my story out there and have fun. And I remember back in college, in between classes, I was walking down the hallway and I had got mobbed by some of my classmates because after a few months they put two and two together, and they was like, "Wait a minute, we've been buying your books, for a few months now, and we had no idea that this is you." So I remember I just like put my book bag on the ground. I'm on one knee just signing all these books, and it was it was really cool. But I forget the original question. I'm sorry, Mike. What were we saying?
I was just saying that overall it's good to be a creator from the
Right.
beginning rather
Right.
than just necessary. I mean, I guess it depends upon what your goals were. Like some people's goal is just to draw Spider-Man. That's all they want to do. They don't care. That's their thing. Other people have no interest in Spider-Man. The big difference is I was interested in self-publishing at a young age, but it was really, really hard to publish
Yeah.
back in the pre 1990. It was really difficult to publish and get your book out there. Now you can put it online. You don't even have to put it in print. You can put it in print later on,
Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
I mean, there's a lot of people who are very successful with that.
mm-hmm,
Yeah, independents are definitely taking over.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And what I love, because I was just at Baltimore Comic Con last weekend, and I was kind of like in the back artist alley, and it was really cool to see so many new faces because every year there's somebody's being born in artist alley, which
Well,
is
you just saw half a face.
oh well, yeah, there was more
Next
there.
year, you'll see this part, but you won't see this part. See, you have to try to put them together.
Right, it's like, yo, you wanna buy my comic? And it's like, all right.
No, Mascatron, I don't.
But just seeing that, the art form is still alive and people are still showing up, wanting to tell their very specific story that's important to them, and trying to find that audience is always hard, especially when you're doing it on foot. You know what I mean? You gotta get in your car, you gotta go to shows. And maybe Ashley, one of my last questions I'll ask you is now that we're still in this weird pandemic swirl and conventions are coming back, and you have maybe I don't know some sort of contract with your fans that they want to see you in person at some point. How are you feeling about the convention scene now? Like, are you ready to go back?
So I've done a few conventions this year.
Mm-hmm.
I just came back from New York Comic Con earlier this month, and then I went to Tribeca Film Festival back in June.
Yeah.
So actually, yeah, those are the only two events that I've done this year with the big
Mm-hmm.
crowd, and I'm not overly concerned. I'm not lackadaisical about it, so I'm very intent. I'm washing my hands with great intent. I'm
Mm-hmm.
very yeah. So
I like it.
yeah,
So
yeah, sanitizing all of that. So I'm very I'm staying on top of that, but I'm not afraid to go.
sure.
You know.
Yeah, well, I'm sure your fans are happy to hear that because, there's like lines in the sand and people have, every reason to do or not do the
Mhm.
in-person thing.
It's
But
complicated. It's like yeah, it's like what we don't even know what's really going on. So
yeah. All right. If you can humor me for just a couple more minutes, I have a lightning round. All of a
okay.
sudden, all these questions came in and they're gonna beat me up if I
Oh.
don't ask you these questions. All right. So, and these are all dope. So, I don't. Hold on, I lost my thing. So the matron saint of our podcast, Mama Carla asks Ashley, what stories are not getting told? Yo, that's deep.
What stories aren't being told? Hmm. That's difficult to
Yeah.
answer because I just finished working on a project called Jupiter Invincible, which is about a slave who cannot die. And I think that's like the ultimate form of rebellion. The fact that you can own my body, because slavery is all about ownership. So the fact that you can own my body, but you can't own my soul or my essence. Um, so I think I've heard everything, considering, that premise.
Mm.
I would like to hear more stories that addresses the underdog and that deals with mental health and achieving goals and dreams. I would like to see a character, um, have their journey, put into a comic about that. Actually, this is kind of like I'm taking the wheel and veering off, but I just started watching The Boys on Amazon Prime. Have you
Yeah.
guys seen The Boys?
I've read some of the comics, and I saw like the first
No,
couple of
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
I
No.
saw first couple of episodes. Yeah. Well,
What did you think about it? Did you think it was too
It
extra?
was a little extra, but I feel like that was the story that it needed to tell. You know what I mean?
Well, the thing I really appreciate about that show, besides like the obvious, the gore and the
Yeah.
darkness,
Yeah.
I really like how they shine a light what goes on behind the scenes when you're trying to maintain an image in the public eye, or you're trying to like be honest with people who follow your work, but then you have to represent certain agendas. It's like
Mm-hmm.
going against that extremism. I like to see
Yeah.
those types of stories. Like
Yeah.
how do they navigate that and all of that?
Right. No, that's a great answer because, even to your point, it's like, and that's why we do the podcast in other ways is like there's a lot of assumptions of how you make the sausage, so to speak, and just when you really hear the stories, it's like, oh wow, I had no idea. I
Mm-hmm.
think enlightening people to how things really work is important. Cool. Thanks, Carla. I have two more, then we'll get you out of here. Our eternity forever. One of our lifers here, Pencil to Pencil, asks, "Will you only create fantasy comics or explore other genres?"
No, I'm definitely taking my work in another direction. So right now, my next two projects are actually in horror. So that's what I will be working on.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Thanks, Eternity. And the last, wow, every dog is in this neighborhood is barking. Sorry about that. And Ange Sky, what up, Ange says, sorry, we're covering your face, Ashley. Any important advice on putting together an online portfolio? So, how does that work in 2021? Putting together an online portfolio, Ashley.
So the advice that I've been given is to draw of course draw different hashtags, draw was popular among the public, even if it's not in your taste, but if you're trying to get your work seen, um, do that. Say if you're trying to work for Marvel or DC, draw a lot of their characters and include their characters in your portfolio, because if you approach, I'm just using Marvel and DC as a example, but whatever company that you're approaching, maybe Google and check out what other projects they previously released and draw a
Mhm.
fan art of those projects so that the company can see that you're capable of drawing their work.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Thanks, Ange. I don't know if you just heard about this, and I don't think this is spicy. That they just started this, and Mike, I don't know if you heard about this. The Milestone Initiative. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, yeah.
So they're basically it's almost like a new hire contest to bring in some new voices into the Milestone mix. So it's almost like a, what do you call it, like a test pilot incubator program that you can possibly win yourself into. So I
Mhm.
think that was interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
How do you feel about our last thing? Then I'll let you go. How do you feel about contests? Do you think that's a necessary thing for a young creator to try out, or is it a waste of time?
No, you definitely need to have a competitive spirit because that's how you grow. Otherwise, iron sharpens iron, so you learn from your peers, and that's how you grow. You don't want to get too comfortable.
Hmm.
And competition isn't a bad thing.
Yeah, that's what's up.
Mhm.
Well, because
Eh,
the thing is that you're in competition anyway, whether you want to acknowledge it or not.
Exactly.
You're competing with people you'll never meet.
Yeah,
But
Yeah.
you're
yeah,
still, that's just the reality of of being an artist, for
yeah,
hire.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, especially with social media, we're on the world stage. You know, pre-social media, our competition would most likely just be local.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, that's so
So,
true. All
yeah.
right, Ashley, the bell is rung. You made it. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We could keep talking to you for another hour, but you have deadlines, and we totally understand. So
We bow to the deadline.
Yes.
we would love to have you back on if you ever want to come back on. You have an
Oh,
open invitation.
yes, definitely.
Awesome. So I hope you enjoyed yourself. Ashley, where are other places that people can follow your work online?
So people can see my work on my website, ashleywoods.com, and also my Instagram, Ninja Trip.
Very cool. It's a really great instant too.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Ashley, thank you so much. Good luck with your deadlines. It was fantastic talking to you. We'll see you next
Okay.
time.
Pet
All
the
right. Take
kitties.
care.
Bye.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
Bye. All right, guys, you're stuck with us now. Ashley's going. Watch her numbers drop off, Mike. So I figured, well, Ashley had to kick out early, and I thought we could kind of hang around and maybe do an open forum, if anybody is interested in asking myself or Mike questions. No, we're not done yet, Matt. We're going to stay on for a little bit longer. So, so you get a half a hand. Is that what it is? So yeah, if anybody has any questions for the two of us, or if anybody wants to bring up a subject, we can talk for a little bit more. Um, and I can maybe talk about Mike. You weren't, but I was. I attended Baltimore Comic Con last weekend
I certainly wasn't.
as a guest, and I know without being too spicy that you have a very strong stance on doing in person appearances this year. So
And maybe next year, and maybe the year after that.
So you want to maybe talk on that because as you know, as one of your best buds, I have to take on questions when you're not around. When I go
Well, I mean,
places.
people can ask them. I mean, it's just I don't feel comfortable being around crowds of people that I don't know. I
Sure,
mean, it's just a simple numbers thing, right?
it's the numbers game.
Right. It's a
Yeah,
numbers game, right?
yeah, yeah.
And I know that there's a lot of good people, and I know the Nathans are good people, and I know a lot of people who have to put those shows on,
Mhm.
have to put them on, or
Right,
they're going to go bankrupt, right? I
right,
mean, they're going to lose their shirt because unless the city or the state is canceling it, if you cancel it, you lose your money and your shirt probably,
hmm,
But yeah, no, I don't feel comfortable. I think we're exactly in the same position we were this time last year, and I think we will go right back into a fifth wave by the beginning of the year. All signs seem to indicate that. So, yeah, no, I'm not. I'd love to do the show. I love Baltimore, but I
hmm.
can't. If I got sick, let's say I don't die, right? But let's say I just get really sick. Well, who's going to do my strip for me? Who's going to do my work for me? Who's going to do that, right?
You all right?
If I got sick and I couldn't work for a month, what King Features is just going to be okay with that?
Right.
No. So it's like, I was talking to somebody today about going to the movies. I'd love to go to the movies, but I still don't feel comfortable going out there. I mean, you've got people that don't want to show their card and they don't want to get the vaccine and all that. I don't want to even hassle with that. So it sucks, but yeah,
Right.
I'm not. I have a couple core comorbidities, as they say. But even if you don't, you could still get sick. And if I'm sick, I can't get somebody else to fill in and do my job for me.
Right. Our good buddy Matt Waringo. What up, Matt? says no shame in not going to convention. But you know what? I think it's worth bringing up because there's always kind of like a mob mentality, right? It's like everybody's going this way, so there's sometimes pressure to go that way. And then when you don't go that way, people want to know why aren't you going that way too? You know what I'm saying? So, and my stance on all of this has been, and we've talked about this in private. It's like whatever you feel is comfortable for you, that's fantastic for me. I'm not a right or wrong or who's left or who's right. It's like you have to make your own decisions, and I totally support that.
I mean, I know there's a lot of people whose income were completely gutted by them not being able to do shows. My income is never based upon doing shows, but I know guys
Hmm.
are weekend warriors are doing three shows a month, and that's how they were making their living. So
Yeah,
when there were
yeah,
no shows to do it,
yeah.
right?
You're
Yeah.
sunk. Yeah.
So yeah, I've never been a person who did a lot of shows.
Hmm.
You know, I don't like most shows, most big shows. I haven't done New York in more than a decade. You know,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
did San Diego a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, and I hadn't done that in what 15 years or something. So, I enjoy seeing my friends. I enjoy seeing people that I don't see otherwise when I go to those shows. But again, that comes with an extra.
Yeah.
And then everything is very complicated. Like,
Yeah.
well, where are you going to go eat? Is there going to be a problem getting into a place that's eat? You get into a place where there's a lot of people. You know what I mean? Like that was always complicated anyway,
Yeah, it's never been easy, right?
right? Like
Yeah.
where are you going to go? Because everybody said, let's get together for dinner. And then there's 20 fucking people trying to go. And you're like, no, if you're over seven, you can't go anywhere. You can't have a gob of 20 people going anywhere.
I don't even think you could put 20 in your open table app. I don't think that'll work.
Yeah. So yeah, the last couple of years, usually what I did was I went right back to the hotel and ordered room service
Yo, that's the wave. I like that.
because you would go across into the harbor and you'd try to find a place, and every place slammed. They don't have enough people. The service is shitty. The food is bad. And it's like I'm trying to go and have a good time. I don't feel like I got to be like battling
Mhm.
to do, and by the end of a show, a long day, sometimes fans probably don't realize you actually work harder at a show than you do at home, right? Because you're talking to people, you're signing stuff, you're trying to draw a sketch, do some other kind of business,
Make money.
make money, right? Because you're trying to do 5 things at one time.
Hmm.
And then you're back in your hotel room at night drawing what you didn't get to draw during the day, or you got to wake up early and draw before you go to breakfast,
That's the
or you got to
worst.
go do breakfast early or get room service, so yeah.
Or show up late because you're working on the thing.
Or a lot of guys show up late because they're friggin' smashed for drinking at the bar till 2 o'clock in the morning,
Yo, I call that, and the caffeines know about that. About what do you call it? Sunglasses at Starbucks. When you show up the next day, hugging that cup with the Ray-Bans on.
Everything's going to be stipple technique.
Jerry's trying to call me out. He says you never hung out before COVID. Yo, that's facts.
That's
True.
true.
Mike knows I'm out. After the thing is, I'm out. I'm in my car, fishtailing out of the parking lot. At least I stay on brand, right?
It's hard to be on for that long. I think over the years I've learned to pace myself. But yeah, I mean, it's a complete opposite experience of your daily experience as an artist. You're in a giant room full of thousands of people and noises and links and blops and stuff going on and everything going crazy. And you're trying to have a conversation with one person about some weird, obscure thing. And then like, yo, saying hi to somebody, yo, oh, and then there's like the conversations do that weird thing where like you're talking to this one person, I'll catch you later, and then like you never see that person
Yeah,
again.
I'll be right. I'll come back. I'll be back. I'll come back.
Right. You see people going to take a piss, and that's about it. You see a lot of that. Yo, as you're running to the men's room.
Yeah, a lot of those like those head nods up. They're like, "Yo, what's up?" Yeah. And it's funny. There's so many people I saw or I did this. Oh, here's the new phenomena. You do these things, and then you realize that there was somebody there. You didn't even see them, but they're posting pictures on Facebook about people in front of the table. Like, I didn't even know you were there. That happens a lot. There were like a whole cruise of people who were like, "Hey, had a blast in Baltimore." I was like, "Yo, where were you? I didn't even know."
And I don't know, usually to get that time off, most of my convention experiences are that, right? You're working till 3:00 in the morning, catching 90 minutes worth of sleep, hop in the car, drive to Baltimore, or you're flying to California, or you're doing something. There were many times back when Brett and I were both storyboarding on the cartoons. We would be in the hotel working on the storyboard, using the TV set or the window as a light box. Our stuff taped up to the window, working just because you can't get that free time. And then you get the con crud when you come home.
Yeah.
Right. And then you're like, you feeling, if you don't get full blown sickness, right, then you're usually you lose a day before and 2 days after. So
yeah, I think we were talking about this on my coffee thing last week, as it was almost did a Comic Con survival guide episode of just how you need to prepare yourself for those things. But yeah, it's real. I talked to a lot of guys at the show who, and this is something, and Mike, I've seen you go through this maybe in different ways, is people show up at your table and they're like, "You doing sketches? You doing sketches? You doing sketches? Yeah, here's the rates or whatever." And you wind up with a list, your commission list. And your commission list grows. Maybe something gets chopped off. Something gets chopped off, it grows again. And now, I'm almost talking myself into not ever getting a commission to get in a show. There's a pressure there, not a performance pressure, not that, because we're good at that. We'll draw whatever in front of a live audience. It doesn't matter. But it's like you're working in, I know, especially with you, Mike, you have a very, I call it the manly trance. I've tried to talk to you while you're drawing, and you're like this. And people come by and go, "Hey, it's Mike." Anytime we were sitting next to each other, and I go like, "Yeah, he's drawing, come back." Or it takes you a minute to snap out of it and look up because you're focused. So how do you almost feel like, is it fair to even do commissions at a comic book show? Like, how do you think that really works? Besides,
I do them all the time.
Well, I mean, besides putting money in your pocket, because that's the best part, is it kind of unfair to the artist and maybe the fan to expect you get this dope artwork in 45 minutes when you come back around again? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is there like a realistic expectation?
I'm pretty straightforward with people. Like, if you got to catch a plane at 2:00 and you want Ant-Man and all the ants, it ain't happening.
Yeah.
Right. So sometimes I would say, well, or I don't want to draw that. Yeah. Is there something else you'd be interested in it? Because I don't like to do a bad sketch. I have done bad sketches, and then later on you see that sketch like Marley's ghost on eBay haunting you for the rest of your life. Some crappy piece of artwork that you did in 5 minutes because some guy's like, please, just
because those are the ones that'll be on your image search on Google.
Right, yeah. So
I got a couple of.
I know some people. Right, I know some people like Rude and I think Cho and some other people, like they have like a list, and if they get like 5, they go, "That's it. That's all I can do. Sorry, you can't. I'm not doing any more." Some people do stuff ahead of time, I've tried doing stuff ahead of time that never seems to work because people always I want you to draw Clutch Cargo. I want you to
You
draw.
just put your lips through the
right.
draw.
Yeah, that's right. I want you to draw something you've never drawn. But that's what I want you to draw. I want you to draw that thing, right? Like I want you to draw Booster's Gold. Like I never read a Booster's Gold comic in my life, right?
Yeah, right.
I can draw anything, but
Right.
it's like, oh, okay. So there's always that weird like switch up where you have to draw something for someone that you don't really have any affinity for, so that's a very odd thing because it's sort of like I sort of feel sometimes like you're a machine at like some sort of carnival, and like you put in your quarter and then you
right.
I want a picture of.
But see, that's also the funny thing about commissions is that I know there's a lot of people that come to the show hoping to get and they fill up their commission list because that might be your nut for the show, or if you're selling pages or something like that. But at the same time, kind of what we were speaking to earlier, the show doesn't start at 10 a.m. on a Saturday. The show started on Tuesday in your studio when your printer was jammed and you have to go buy more magenta ink because you're trying to get ready for the show. You haven't even left town yet.
Right. Or your banner didn't come, or you're trying to get your banner printed, or
right.
Yeah.
All of that. So to kind of put on top of that, you have so many commissions now. You're going to have to go scarf down some room service and just draw all night to get this stuff done. This does not my idea of a relaxing weekend.
Well, what I would like to do is I would like to have dinner with a few friends, which I usually do.
Can I come, Mike?
And we've done that, and the last couple of years I've had dinner with Tom Palmer, which is really great because I really love him. He's a great guy. He has really great stories. And so you get connect with one or two people, at a show, a couple people at a show. And then there's always the bar hang, but I think the bar hang isn't what it used to be. Because it's like, I'm not going to go down and pound a fifth of bourbon after being at a Comic-Con all day. I'm just not.
Yeah.
I was never a big drinker like that anyway. But no, because you got to get back up and do it the next day. And now some of the shows like San Diego are like almost a week.
Yeah, because I don't know if that's changed, but San Diego used to start on Wednesday. Because
I think it's like even earlier. They got the
preview night.
Yeah, and that's like an almost really. It's just an extra day. It's not even a preview. It's just like bam.
It's like day -1. X-1.
Yeah. So I like I said, I like doing shows. I like meeting people. I like doing sketches for people. I like doing drawings that people get pleasure from. That's a really cool thing. It's cool to have a connection with fans like that. But it's just it's always a hard thing to try to get it arranged because as a freelancer, especially doing the strips, there's never really, if you ever take a day off, if I ever take a day off, like today I took a day off because I had a bunch of other stuff that I had to do because it was grinding yesterday. So now I got to burn a little midnight oil tonight because if you really take a full day off, you pay for it.
You pay.
That day the jobs are always like a sponge, right? And I know so many freelancers. I've even had to do it myself where you wanted to go to a show and at the last minute you literally had to cancel. You're like, I can't go this weekend because I got 7 pages to ink and I was supposed to get them last week and then they didn't come until today.
That's I remember kind of like earlier in our friendship where you did that a couple of times and I was sitting at my table and I would look across and just see your name on the thing, and people would wander by and look, and then they look at me, Mike Manley, right? Because I'm your keeper apparently, and they go, "Yo, where Mike at?" Right? And for for the longest time, I didn't get it. I get it now. I get it now. You know how it's just like something's got to go, right? And like if your deadline's your deadline, and things crash up. Sometimes you just can't make it. You know what I mean? And you hope that your fan base can understand that. But yeah, it's a necessary evil sometimes, and you don't want to have to do that. But there's only 24 hours in a day sometimes. Yeah.
Sometimes we try to fit 36 in, though.
Yeah, we do that a lot, don't we? So Mike, there was a couple of questions, and guys, welcome to the live freestyling pencil to pencil with Cake. Hold on, I'm gonna do that just so we can shift gears. Welcome, guys, to Cake freestyling pencil to pencil. I love the branding. Where we had
Juggling. We're going to be juggling now.
where we had Ashley A. Woods won a little earlier in the show. Ashley had to go back to the drawing table.
She had a deadline.
Yeah, look at that. So Mike and I are going to kick it a little bit longer with you guys, you penciliers, hanging out with us tonight. Mike, there was a question from Eternity Forever. There were two questions. One of them was, and I don't know if it was a question, Eternity, was hashtag Inktober. So I'm not exactly sure what Eternity wanted from that. Or I know that you were doing prompts earlier in the month. Did you keep working on that, or like how do you?
I never do the Inktober prompts. I've never done.
You just kind of do your own thing.
I just do my own thing, because I was looking back. I guess I started doing Inktober stuff like 8 years ago, 9, a long time ago now.
Mm-hmm.
But I never followed any prompts. Right, gotta draw what I want to draw. I didn't do as much Inktober this year. I've done a few things just because I'm too busy. I would love to, and I'm doing, since I did the TeePublic thing, so I'm trying to feed that. Oh,
shout out for your TeePublic.
My TeePublic store. They always have like a sale going on. I think they have a holiday, an October Spooktober sale going on.
You have a like a code word for your site now, right? It's not. It was before. It was just a bunch of letters, but now.
If you just do Draw Manley, you'll find it.
Okay, all right. I'll put that on the John.
The June 1. I'll send you the updated June 1.
Right. So, my question to you, Michael, is: do you think if you're already a career cartoonist or a creative or somebody who draws for a living, that you should feel Inktober pressure?
No. I think young people feel pressure to do it and then buckle and then feel bad, because almost every single person I know, right? I mean, who has all day, every day to draw what they want? Only a person who's basically unemployed or a student, right? Because if you're, I'm just being honest. Not, I would love to sit down and just draw whatever I want to every day and make some cool pen and ink Inktober thing or whatever every day, not just for October. But you can't, because you got to draw other stuff that pays money. But. Yeah, I don't think you should feel pressure. I think you should only do it if you feel the urge to create. The thing I notice is that, and we were talking about this on the podcast, how different the students are. A lot of people, when I started teaching, people had their own ideas, and they felt a little bit more, students felt a little bit more independent. Right? And now, when I would teach the same kind of class, the student would almost prefer me to say, you draw a shoe, you draw a banana, you draw a pirate ship, they would prefer me to tell them what to draw, right? Many of the students, majority of the students would prefer me to tell them, give them a subject, right? Which is really the big difference between illustration and fine art. Because in general, in fine art, you're going like, oh, here's a banana. I'm going to paint, I'm going to paint this thing that I am looking at, right? And an illustration student goes, I'm going to make this thing I have in my head, right? So some people get stuck with here, like what can I pull from here out and put on the paper, right? Some people go right to it. You know, if I have 50 students, 3 or 4 will come right out. But a lot of them will prefer me to tell them, this is what you're going to draw today. Oh,
I don't know what to draw.
a blank sheet of paper is a scary thing to some people.
I don't know what to do. Tell me what to do.
So I see that with the Inktober. Now there's all kinds of Tober things. There's,
Dude, my favorite,
pouch.
Our boy Rico Rizzi made Pouchtober, where he just did all of these like 90s Marvel characters.
And there's like Witchtober and Spooktober and Dogtober and Drawtober. I mean, there's all kinds of Tobers, and then Tom Bancroft does Mermaid. I mean, there's all these draw Batman Day or draw Wonder. I did the last thing I did was a Wonder Woman Day.
That was tight.
But I didn't do it on Wonder Woman Day. I had the idea that I jotted down, but I didn't get a chance to finish it for like 2 days, right? Because I had to get the strips done. So, I think anything, if that is your impulse, the carrot to get you to sit down and draw, great.
Yeah. I know I just straight up don't do them. Like there was maybe 2 years ago, I think it was like before the pandemic, and I was just I made like a cool little template for myself. Like I printed out on like 12 by 18 paper, day 1, day 2, day 3. And I don't know if you remember that. I was just like doing some like off the head noodling and some hatching on that. And I was enjoying that. And then by like day 7, I was just like, I got things I need to be working on. So that's why I'm always so kind of like flummoxed by how your wind downs and your warm ups come out, because they're just magnificent.
Well, I think I'm just one, I'm a workaholic. 2, I love to draw. I love to draw as an occupation, but I also like to draw as relaxation, like sitting down and doing something and drawing. Like you talked earlier about, like, will you see me at a show and I'm like in the zone, right?
Yeah. That's
that
real.
Drawing is a meditation, much like a guru or a
yogi,
like a yogi, or like a boo-boo.
I knew you were going to say that.
Or like a religious. It's a
transcendence.
Yeah, because you go into this other space, and you can sit down and draw, and wow, I might have started drawing at 12, and now it's 4 a.m.
Where'd the time go?
Right. But it's not a stressful time. It's not a, there's that completely different experience for me to draw tonight when I'm going to be working on the strip. Time, money, I gotta gain ground, right?
Right.
I gotta have a strategy. I gotta have all my ducks in a row. I gotta do this very specific thing. If tonight instead I was going to sit down and just draw for myself, it'd be different. I could put some music on, or maybe put on. That's how I watched Squid Game.
Oh, you watched that?
One weekend. Well, I started when I was doing one of the wind downs. I just, for the hell of it, what's this thing? When I saw the mask thing, I just clicked on it, right? And I started watching it as I was drawing, and it was just, just drawing. So it's.
You weren't snapping pencils in fright from the things.
No, I mean, I generally don't ever have that on. Maybe more on the strips, or I'm drawing something for Marvel or DC. I will get frustrated and erase something, sometimes many times, to get something that I want. When I'm working for myself, if I erase something, it's more part of the creative process and not
a
lot of people look at, if you erase
mistake fixer, right? Yeah.
Right. But I actually now, and I think I came more to this actually from going to school, going back to art school, is realizing that erasing, drawing and erasing, building and destroying is a creative process. It's a natural creative process. So if you draw something and then you don't like it and you erase it, that erasing is actually not a negative thing. It's a positive step on towards making the final drawing. It's a necessary step. I think that's what a lot of people get caught up with. Also, a lot of younger students, younger artists get caught there, and they don't like the critique, and they don't like having to redraw things, and they cling to that effort, right? They cling to that effort. I don't want to I fucking drew this all day, and now you say, it sucks, and I know it sucks, and I don't want to admit it that it sucks, but I know it sucks, and I
can't let it go.
Right.
Right. That's right. You're talking a lot about the frustrations that you can have when you critique a young person's work and they don't fix it. It's like, well, this, and this, and if you did this, and then they just kind of grab the paper and like go back to their desk, and they're all salty about it, but they don't fix it because they don't want to go back and do the work of correcting.
Well, and the thing is, as a professional, if your editor goes, no, right, you can say, screw you, Magoo, this is the way it's going to go. And they can say, okay, and by the way, we're not working with you anymore, right? Or if you're working in animation and you're in a team, right, you've got a whole team of people working, and like one person is clogging up the thing, you got to fix it. And if you don't fix it, they got to get somebody else to fix it. And if somebody else has got to fix it, your time is numbered. So that is definitely a barrier that you have to pass through. And, I could sit there and draw a whole page, and if I didn't like it, erase it. And that's just part of the process. I would not, when I was younger, I would get, obviously I would get frustrated, but now I don't know. I don't feel, I mean, was doing that on the Phantom this week. I kept trying to get this feeling in a couple of drawings, and I wasn't happening. And I probably erased that thing like 10 times until I got the thing that I wanted. Now when I was younger, I would be like, oh, I drew that. I don't like it, but I don't want to necessarily redraw it. Now I'm just brutal with it and we'll redraw stuff. You always end up making it better.
Yeah.
You always end up making it better.
I also Eternitine asked, and I don't know if we have time for this, but Eternitine asked about copyrights. It was just kind of like,
what about copyright?
Right, what about it's something that's just like very open-ended things, or just words on the screen.
Well, I think this is back when Bill Clinton was president. If you put the little copyright symbol on something, it's copyright. Now, to officially copyright it and make it even more official, you can actually send a copy. I don't know if you can do it digitally now, but you could print it out and you'd fill out this form and you'd send it to the Library of Congress, and you could do several pieces at one time. You could file it with the Copyright Office.
I thought you were talking about the poor man's copyright.
Right. Now, so you can, and you can also, if you were trying to sell an idea or show an idea to somebody, you can take a self-addressed envelope, put your copy of your pitch into it, mail it to yourself,
and don't open it.
And don't open it.
Don't open it.
Right. But so yeah,
they used to call that the poor man's copyright.
Right. Now, there's copyright and there's trademark. The copyright is different from the trademark. Trademark means they're giving you an exclusive right, I think, for usually 7 or 8 years in a specific category to exclusively, sell your thing, right? So now, like when they make a movie like Star Wars, or Disney makes something and they're making T-shirts and everything in the universe, they have to file separate copyrights for each one of those different things. Like there's clothes and there's food and there's like
Blue milk.
20 categories. There's all these different categories, right? Mm-hmm. So that is different. Now, when you're coming up with a character, you should do the trademark search to find out if somebody else is also doing, super awesome miracle guy, right? So you do you pay the money and do the trademark search. But yeah, I mean, if you just put copyright on your artwork, it's copywritten. And, if somebody wants to rip you off, they will go ahead and do it no matter what.
They're going to do it.
Right. Yeah. And then you have to have the money to hire a lawyer. And the lawyer will tell you what the chances are of you getting, compensated for somebody infringing upon your copyright.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not worth the money. Because the person did maybe steal your idea, but they didn't make any money off of it, or they didn't make a lot of money off of it. It's not like they took your idea and then now it's like I don't know, Mickey Mouse or something.
Right.
So yeah, that answers the question. But
I got another one for you. What up, Ann Sky? You know Ann Sky, another penciler in good standing. Ann says, have you guys ever dealt with someone straight up copying your original work and passing it off as their own? Mike, you want to take a stab at that?
I think
this might pertain more to you than me.
I have seen people years ago supposedly do something with that looked like something that I drew, but again, they were in South America, and then the idea that I would sue somebody in Peru because they copied a drawing of Monster Man and turned it into whatever, Again, it's like once you go outside of the United States, it's really not worth it unless you've got some kind of specialized. See, because you have to have a specialized, high-powered attorney who
like a high-powered attorney,
right? And though I had a copyright and trademark attorney who cost $200 an hour.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Right. So I know a lot of young artists worry about people stealing their stuff, but you can't let that be a block to you creating or putting your work out there. That's just part of the risk.
It's part of it.
Yeah, and if your work is good enough that somebody else wants to steal it, that's an important thing.
Yeah. Facts. Yeah, and I was thinking more aligned, like our good buddy Terry Beatty, who was on the program last year, has this one thing that he kind of has his own crusade where he likes to shut down bootleggers on eBay. I think it's a fantastic Batman mission. Like he hunts out people who are trying to forge cartoon artwork and pass it off as originals on eBay.
A lot of peanut stuff that's it looks like your grandpa traced it or something.
Yeah, and they're horrible traces. Like they may have probably the thing that might look the most realistic is a signature. You know what I mean? Because I think that's what they think people are going to inspect the most. But it'll just be kind of like a Linus drawing with the dents in the wrong side of his head or something like that. It's just horrible artwork. But there's somebody who will buy it, right?
Yeah. Well, there, a lot of people who are fans, just say the average Joe or Joanne on the street, they don't know. They've never seen a piece of original comic book art. They have no idea. Oh, that looks like Snoopy. They're not experts, right? I mean, I just saw today, or was it yesterday, somebody posted on Twitter, somebody on eBay trying to sell an original Todd McFarlane cover of Spawn, and it was obviously like this Xerox, and they had $1,500 on it or whatever. So what's the old saying? A fool and his money is soon parted. So
Yeah.
there's always people putting up fake Salvador Dali's, fake, anybody who had a style that would be easy to go over, right? Like you don't see people putting up fake Alex Raymonds,
Right.
or fake Alex Nino, or fake Bernie Wrightson, something that, or Frazetta, which is really difficult to even copy. You know what I mean? You got to they're always doing like Schultz or Garfield or something that's like simple. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not gonna like, oh, we're gonna, there were some fake Kirby's that were really,
they're really obviously fake.
yeah, well, they're just like, it looked like they put it on a light box and just like, traced on it.
Are you guys enjoying this section of the podcast? Maybe this is something, Mike, we can just start to fold in once in a while, just you and I. Maybe it's viewer. I like it. I like the freestyle session. I don't know.
Freestyle.
All right, we're about to get out of here, but Mama Carla shows up and asks, Jamar, how do you feel about your characters being used on fabric? I think I'm okay with it as long as it's a licensing agreement that we agree to. I don't know how I'd feel if, like Leon got the Black Bart Simpson treatment.
Leon peeing on stuff.
Right. I don't know how I'd feel about that.
Over in the corner. Peeing on some hobo.
Peeing on the elevator floor. But no, I'm all into merchandising as long as I get my points. That's how I'm living in 2021.
Points.
I want my points. JRD, you know about that. I want my points, bruh. So, but thanks for that, Carla. All right, we're gonna wrap this up. This was fun. As always, I love the banter. I love we have a host of regulars that join us every week, Wednesday at 8 p.m. to chop it up. And they're here, Mike Manley, for whatever guests we bring on. I think that's exciting. Sometimes I hear about people who just go, oh, somebody's on that I like. I'm going to watch that one. And they ignore the rest.
That's people.
Ain't that people for you? But I think you'll enjoy what's happening next. You ready, Mike Manley? You know what happens next week? Boot camp.
Boot camp.
Boot camp. Yo, we're back, baby. Boot camp is coming next week. Maybe, Mike, this will be a perfect time to see if any of the pencilers would like to give us a topic for boot camp. What do you think, Mike? Would you be into that?
Oh, we're always looking for suggestions where people are interested in.
Trey guessed it. Trey's like, I knew boot camp was coming. But yeah, if anybody has an idea for a session, that sounds fantastic. And also, you know what? I'm not alien to this. I can do the session too. I'm itching to draw some stuff.
Okay.
You heard it here first.
He said he was going to draw something. He said he was going to draw something.
Not only am I handsome, Mike Manley, I'm all right. I'm all right with the pencil. I can get that a little bit. JRD says, how about adapting a script to make every page a mild cliffhanger? Well, that's how you should be doing your pages anyway, right?
Well, I mean, you only do that if that's what the page...
If that's what it calls for.
Called for, yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, I think there's a nugget in there somewhere, Mike. Or maybe we can talk about like page flow or something like that. I know we did a little bit of that, and we had Man Bun Man in the alley, right? We did a lot of that kind of setup.
Right, but again, it depends upon the style of the script. If you're getting a plot where it's up to you to pace it, or is this something that the writer It's giving you a full script, and then really then the plotting is mostly up to the writer in that way, right? So like if I when I worked on Darkhawk, a lot of the plotting or the pacing really was up to me. When I worked on Batman, the pacing was mostly up to Doug Mensch because he was writing full script. So he was saying, this all happens on this page, this all happens on this page, this all happens on this page. The Marvel method was between this page and this page, these things happen. Right? Sometimes it'd be very loose, you know. You might get 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 pages to play with.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Depending upon the writer. So I think those formal ideas of how to break down a page is all completely dependent upon the type of script and the type of story that you're telling. Right.
Okay. So JRD, to tie up his ask, he mainly writes children's books, Mike. So he says I could write so every chapter ends on a cliffhanger, but pagination pacing is still a new thing for me. So kind of like beating out a page so that it's flowing from the next to the next thing. The page turn is a really important element when you're laying out your comic book. Like you're setting the last panel up for an action that's going to make the reader want to turn the page to see what happens next. So yeah, maybe we can take a stab at that. I'll spin that around a little bit. Okay, hold on. Eternity says boots on the ground. Hey, could you do inking boot camp, digital versus paper?
Now I'll see if I can set up my overhead camera enough that I could do a live inking thing.
Okay, all right. Yeah, that would be interesting. So maybe we could do like a traditional, and then we could do a split screen with like somebody working on Clip Studio, and see if there's any difference in that. And Ange says, I'd love to learn more about pagination. Okay. And JRT says, or have Jay in ink with a brush and Mike digitally. Oh, all right. We're getting some stuff here. We can play with that. All right. Oh, Carla says, I like your rap sessions. I've learned a lot. Maybe we should call it rap sessions. Real rap with Mike and Jamar.
MTV Raps, right?
Put a stamp on it. Blam. All right, you guys. All right. Now here everybody comes. I'm trying to turn the show off. Trey says, I would love more about getting my lines right. That sounds like a hit, like a barbershop thing.
Cut them thinner.
That's right.
Get the razor, get them out on a nice clean piece of glass.
Is that like when you're at the deli and it's like, how's that? No, can you do it thinner? How's that?
So if you mean by lines, are you talking about inking lines or are you talking about penciling, right? I mean, lines.
That's very vague. Right. So yeah, Trey, what do you mean? Like your inking line? Or do you have a shaky pencil line? Or, kind of give us a little more insight into that, and then we'll bring it into consideration. Okay, yeah, he says penciling. Okay, yeah, that's something we could talk about. All right, I think that's enough for tonight. Thank you. I want to thank everybody for joining us again. Thanks again to our guest, Ashley A. Woods. She was a fantastic guest. We'd love to have her back.
She's well underway now, I'm sure, drawing.
Right, and we have to do the same thing, so we're going to wrap this up, guys. Thank you so much. As always, if you are watching us on our Facebook page, please like and share these. Can you please press the share button and put these on your wall and share the magic of pencil to pencil with your constituents? If you're watching this on YouTube, did you like it? I want to see those likes up, guys. Get those likes up. That's going to help us with the algorithm. We're on a really slow crawl to 1,000 subscribers. Everything changes when we hit 1,000, Mike. Everything the light touches is yours when we get 1,000.
Into the light, children. Into the light.
No, you said don't go into the light. I I need to go watch.
Oh, pencil and pencil is yours. Oh, pencil and pencil is yours.
No, you just moved the headstones.
I just
All right.
watched it the other day. It was on.
You watched
TMC.
Poltergeist?
Yeah, it was on
love
TMC the other day. Yeah.
We should
I
have a
hadn't seen it in a long
Poltergeist
time.
watch party. It's so dated, but I love that movie so much. It's like an old cousin. I love that movie.
It's a good. It's still a good movie though. It's a still well told movie.
Yeah. All right, you guys. Enjoy the rest of your week. We'll see you here next Wednesday, and don't forget to wash those Kirby hands. Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. See you next time.
Bye.
Ka-chink-chink.